everybody. Welcome to the Training, Learning, and Development community. Thanks for joining us today. Let's see, we've got a nice handful of folks that are already in. We've got Melinda and Katrina, Glenda, Lane, Val. Thanks for joining us. I'd like to introduce you to Christine Duguay. Sorry. Christine's British Columbia, right? And we were just talking about how she lives in like a ski area. I live in like a coastal sort of California town, so we're in two very different places. And we've got a member showcase to talk about today. And if you're not familiar with this format, all it is I've just got a bunch of questions for Christine to learn more about her, to connect. And hopefully those of you that listen to this podcast, watch this in the live video broadcast, you might be willing to or interested in connecting with Christine. And Christine, is it okay if I drop your LinkedIn profile in the chat for people to check out?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to do it. So there we go. So you ready for my questions?
I am.
You are. All right. So let's see. ThoughtExchange. Let's start there. I was fascinated by ThoughtExchange when I was like, where is this place that you work? And it looks like it's about community. You've been there for over 6 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And can you tell us a little bit more about ThoughtExchange?
ThoughtExchange is a software and services company. It's based actually in the town that I live called Rossland in British Columbia, a small town. We're a software startup. About 10 years now, I guess. And the software is really intended to scale group conversations quickly. So what we are able to do with our software is ask the community what they think about a specific topic. And so what we do is we receive candid, unbiased answers to really powerful, open-ended questions. And so that's really helpful for community members because it's important for us to be included and involved in conversations because we tend to buy in a lot more when we've had a say. And then for leaders, what they get to see is information and feedback in real time. And so what they can do is they have access to what we call a Discover dashboard, and they have a whole variety of different ways of looking at the results, and then they can take action from there.
Wow. And so you're a learning and development specialist there. What's your typical day like?
It's a busy day. It's a busy day, and I right now I'm focusing my attention on onboarding new people. We are in growth mode, so we're welcoming a variety of new roles to the organization. So I spend a lot of time with them, and then a lot of time doing instructional design and a lot of reporting and looking at how people are using our learning management system.
Wow. And so you're kind of one of those folks that came from the HR world, right?
Mm-hmm.
You went from HR into L&D. What was that transition like?
Well, and I guess it sort of happened all on its own because I enjoyed coaching people. I enjoyed watching people grow and learn and meet the targets that they set out for themselves in terms of a career path in an organization. And so that really sparked that interest in me, is being able to help guide people through their career path journey in an organization. And we all know that sometimes your career is not a line from A to B. It actually changes over time, depending on where you are in your life, in your personal life, and what your interests are. So being able to guide people through that is really a passion of mine.
Nice. So it must be really helpful having that human resources background when you're doing training, like helping people. Like you were saying, I know on your LinkedIn profile, you talk about how you love helping people reach their potential.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like, what are some of the ways that you might, when you do that, like what are some tools that you might use to help with someone's journey?
Well, I think it's about understanding what motivates them, what are their interests, and
Mhm.
then finding out what the gaps are. in their knowledge, in their skills, in their competencies, and trying to find opportunities for them to grow through additional learning to get to
Yeah.
where we want to go. But really, the initial conversation is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then from there, you can dig a little bit deeper and explore a little deeper with folks what's missing from their current pedigree to get them from where they are to where they want to be.
Why is that interesting to you?
Because I believe in the possibilities of people. I think that we don't always just have one career path. I think that we, based on where we are in our lives, can change our minds and find an interest in something that's completely different from what we were interested in last year. And
Mhm.
if, 2020 is any indication of that, we can see that a lot of people have had to change careers and get creative. And there have been a lot of people who've started their own businesses and are working as consultants. And so I think that there's an opportunity for folks to just explore the possibilities based on their interests and go from there.
Yeah. I sort of have, I think it's on my LinkedIn profile, something that's similar where I feel like that's my mission as well, is to
Mm,
kind of find, like, to help people with their potential. But what I found, and it's one of the reasons why I love being a community builder, is that, I mean, ultimately, people just kind of inspire me all around. I just love learning more about them and what drives them, and I'd like to encourage people to continue to grow.
mhm,
I mean, I don't know about you, but that's why I like to be in this space, is because
mhm.
education and change and growth and just seeing people kind of blossom. I've always kind of looked at it as kind of like a garden sort of situation.
Yes, absolutely. And business is changing all the time. So people are constantly needing to upskill. And so the possibilities are endless.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk a little bit about more of your journey into L&D. So prior to being a learning and development specialist, you were in HR. What else did you do before that?
I did a lot of learning and development for years, right?
Huh.
Well over 20 years now, I've been in learning and development. But before that, I was a flight attendant.
Hmm.
I did a lot of work in hospitality and was a call center manager. And as far back as I can remember, I was a fitness instructor who taught the Jane Fonda workouts. And that might
Ooh,
be a little bit, but if you remember those days.
I do. I do remember those days. That's awesome. That's great. So, what is your favorite part of working in of being in L&D, or being an instructional designer, like currently? What do you like about it the most?
I think what I enjoy most about my job is the collaboration and the creativity of my work
Uh-huh.
because I get to work with so many different people in the organization. That's really interesting as well because I get to connect with people that I don't normally get a chance to, like developers, for example. And I really enjoy designing new courses and programs and improving those that we already have.
I love it. So, I want to hear about, the graduate certificate that you're working on. It's
Mm.
mindfulness based. And actually, I am going to, hang on a second. I want to grab it's in my Q&A area, and I want to bookmark this. So, tell us about that mindfulness based teaching and learning graduate certificate that you're building. Is it actually going now, or is it launching soon, or?
Yes, well, they have already done, I think, 2 cohorts, and I will be joining the fall cohort. I had already signed up for it and then pulled out for different reasons, and then I decided to come back to it. And so, having done my adult education degree through the University of the Fraser Valley, a lot of courses were creeping in around mindfulness. And so all of the students had to complete the 8-week stress based mindfulness course. And so we did that, and all of a sudden, this whole new world opened up for me, and I was really quite impressed. And when they said that they were launching this mindfulness-based teaching and learning graduate certificate, and it's really intended for folks who have completed a graduate degree, um, I immediately thought, this is wonderful. This is exactly what I need in my work, what I think a lot of organizations need as well, right? And so the content of the course, it's quite varied. There are a lot of different courses that you're going to be taking, but really um, the crux of it is really teaching us a thorough foundation of the most recent developments in mindfulness teaching techniques. And that's really the goal of the program itself. What's also interesting is that Dr. Rockwell, who actually started the Mindfulness Institute in Toronto, is part of this program, part of the teaching program. And
Mhm.
so having access to her will be wonderful, right? One of those rare occasions. So we're really going to delve into mindfulness as an experiential learning approach. What we want is for people to focus their attention, and it's really intended for learning. But my goal in doing this degree is to be able to put together a program for workplace, for employees in the workplace. What are some of the mindfulness practices that you can start to integrate into your day to day that will make you more effective, right? More compassionate, will give you a chance to reflect more on your work, and also help you self regulate at any given time.
Wow, that's interesting. It seems like lately I am getting approached by folks that have backgrounds in kind of mindfulness based practices, and so I definitely need to learn more about it. It's do you think that there? I mean, where did this come from? Is it something that happened because of 2020, or are folks just wanting to be more present in what they do? And um, any insight into that at all?
Well, I mean, mindfulness practice, dates back to the days of Buddha,
Right.
right? That's where it started. But there is a connection between um, the Buddhist practices of meditation and so on, and clinical use of mindfulness. And
Mhm,
so there's a gentleman called John Kabat-Zinn who actually started the 8-week mindfulness-based, stress-based program. And what he does is he helps people sort of manage their stress, but there are a whole other variety of ways that you can use mindfulness. So you can use it for depression, or for um, food, or for just dealing with conflict, or there's so many different ways that you can integrate mindfulness into your day-to-day practice, that I think it's becoming a lot more mainstream. And
mm,
there's scientific data that supports that as well. That shows
mhm,
that, for me, I see it a little bit like clearing the etch a sketch. If you remember an etch a sketch, right? You used to draw all these little things, squiggly lines, and sometimes that's what our brain is like. It's just full of all this information. And I don't know if you've ever felt this, but sometimes I'm sitting at my computer and I look at the screen and I think, God, I can't think anymore. And so I step away, I sit, I breathe for 5 minutes, and I come back. And it's like I have a clean slate. I've made some
mhm,
space in my brain to be able to think creatively. And so
right.
that's the value that I see in our day to day practice.
Nice. Yeah, I kind of look at that like sort of like meditation. I know that when I'm particularly busy and sometimes when, I just start getting scattered and the screen time is too much, I will like, maybe meditate for about 5 minutes. It
Mhm.
feels like, having an IT background, it reminds me of doing like a soft reset, just like rebooting my system and kind of doing that. Now, the mindful based approach, is that something that you can actually not just, integrate into your personal productivity, but is it something that you can integrate into a curriculum, like a training curriculum or, a part
Absolutely.
of your instructional design?
Mhm. I actually currently have a module that I share out with the organization. It's called Mindfulness and Time Management.
Ah,
And so it's really helpful when you are mindful of where you're spending your time in a day. And so we're also leaning into Covey's, the four quadrants of productivity. But if you are not mindful about where you are spending your day, it's really hard to set boundaries for yourself to be able to do your most important work. And so mindfulness practice comes into play with that. And also, mindfulness is helpful when you're getting a lot of requests to try to figure out which are the most important. Where do I want to focus my attention? And so that's where mindfulness practice comes into play as well.
I love it. It seems like that particular concept, the mindful ideas about mindfulness would be really appropriate now because it does feel like almost on a social level, we've all had to hit like a reset. And so, yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out ways to encourage people to explore that a little bit more. Now, let me ask you this: you say that you've been in L&D for like 20 years or so. Is there anything that you know now that you wish you could, if you can go back to yourself when you started,
Mhm.
that you'd tell yourself?
The importance of gathering input and feedback from learners. I
Hmm.
think that's the most valuable piece of my work. And because I work at ThoughtExchange, I use our software to ask new employees, to ask leaders, to ask learners what they appreciate, what significant learning they're walking away with when they complete a module, what additional learning they'd like to have access to. And so this provides me with information that's gold because in our profession, I can try to guess what people need. But when I'm launching a thought exchange and asking people what they think, they're actually telling me what they need.
Hmm.
And so that's really been powerful for me.
Was it Thought Exchange that actually enlightened you to this idea? So it was,
Yes,
like 6 years
absolutely.
ago.
I
Wow.
mean, you can launch a survey, but when you're launching a survey, you're asking people to respond to things that you're interested in. When I launch an exchange, I'm actually asking people what they are interested in, and so they're actually telling me what they need, and that's been a lot more helpful for me in my work.
Wow. That's really interesting. So is there a particular training project that you've completed as an L&D professional that maybe you can share with us that you might be proud of?
There are a lot. Over the years, there have been so many. Um, there are a couple, yes. One of which was a career mapping um, uh, program that I had launched in a particular firm. And what that was doing for young architects in this particular case was asking them, do you want to become a subject matter expert? Do you want to become a manager? Where do you want to go in your career? And so that was really helpful for them to go through that reflective process, to be matched up with a mentor who would be able to help them on that journey. And so through LinkedIn, I can actually see a lot of those people who went through that program years ago are now reaching the objectives that they'd set out. And so that
Wow, that must be so satisfying.
it is, yes.
That's great. How did you build it? I mean, is it something just like
Well, back in the day, I didn't have access to a learning management system. So I
Mhm.
just created I guess it was kind of like a workbook, and we just worked through it together. We did self assessments, we had lots of conversations, we did some research. They had some books they needed to read as well. So it was a combination of different things that we did.
That's great. It sounds like you're pretty much a hands-on kind of person.
I am. I like combining different ways of learning for people because I
Mhm.
want it to be meaningful for them,
Mhm, mhm.
right? And I think what's most important for me when new people are joining the organization is, valuing the experience that they have.
Mhm.
setting a lot, it's really important for us to value what they bring to the organization and then
Mhm.
sharing how we do things so that they can connect the dots and already start to see themselves in the role. I think that that's really powerful for people.
I when thinking about this, I sort of reflect upon an experience I had years ago when I was working in an organization, not really in the L&D side of things, but more on the marketing side of things. And I met some folks that were on the training side, and I mean, it was a really sad thing. And I know I've told this story before, but um, when I found out there were actual instructional designers on at this company, I decided to look for them, and I couldn't really find them. Finally, someone told me if you go past that last group of cubes, past the janitorial storage area, and in the back, you'll find where their desks are. And so I went back all the storage area as far away as can be, and there were these two people that were just there, building PDFs all day. And that's all that they did was they were just assembling like these PDFs, and they would just send them out to folks all the on a regular basis to update people on products and things. And it was an electronics place, and I felt really sad for them because I felt like you guys should be more hands-on. You should be able to be a more central part of the company culture. And so I love hearing the fact that you are so hands-on, because I feel like newer instructional designers, if you get kind of stuck in a place where they're just wanting you to build training materials and you don't have access to anything else at all, you should probably find somewhere else, because it can be really like an incredible experience working as somebody, as the education piece at an organization,
Mhm.
um, being a lot more closer to the center of things.
Absolutely, I would agree with that. And I think that um, instructional designers and learning and development folks in the industry, they want to keep learning as well. They want to keep growing as well. And so, this idea of pigeonholing someone into a particular role or into a particular corner of an organization is a detriment to them, because
Yeah.
most of the time when we go into this field of practice, we do it because we are creative, because we are curious and we're interested. And so why not tap into that? And it's of benefit to any organization when you do.
Ah, I love it. That is so true, Christine. Yeah. All right. So let me ask you this one. Who or what keeps you inspired?
Mm. Well, earlier this year, I started a discussion group, and it's called Lift, and it's a discussion group with 5 other women. And the conversations that we have are intelligent and deep and honest and purposeful, and they inspire me every time we have these conversations. And what I was looking for was a group of people that I could talk about learning and development and talk about what it's like to be a woman in the workforce, at my age as well, all of these different topics. So I was looking for a group of like-minded people, and they all work in different industries, but they inspire me every time we talk.
Wow. How did you find them?
They are people that I have worked with over the years, that
Hmm.
I found really interesting and fun and talented. And I just reached out to them through Facebook and said, "Hey, would you be interested in meeting once a month and talking about a particular topic?" And they all said, "Yes, we're ready." And so that's what we've been doing.
Wow, that is great. I definitely can see how that would be inspirational, and
Mhm.
um, and creating like just a small community like that for support. That's great. That's excellent. Good to know you found something like that. Um, how about this one? What do you think your best friend, how would they describe what you do for a living?
Well, I asked. And here's what she said. She said that I develop onboarding that is thoughtful and inclusive, and that I set employees up for success within the framework of my company.
Ah, I love it.
So I thought, and she's not in the same field as I, so this is just from our conversations. And I thought that's really nice. It's nice to hear.
That is great. I'm gonna have to go back and I'm probably gonna transcribe this one anyway because you've offered so many good little nuggets of things. But I want to get that one down for sure. So if you weren't an L&D professional, what do you think you'd be?
I would be a chef,
Oh yeah, you're a foodie.
foodie, foodie. And we were talking about mindfulness earlier. At the end of the day, for me to go to the kitchen, to pull out all my ingredients, to chop, to put on some music and pour a little glass of wine, that for me is my mindfulness moment at the end of the day.
Mm.
I love to prepare food, but what I love is to watch people eat more. And so, yes, our home is really the home that welcomes the most people in our little group of friends for sure. We love having people over. I love cooking for them.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm the same. It's kind of just culturally, I think that, food prep and sharing is it's an act of love. And so, I really, really enjoy having family and friends over because it's sort of my way of being able to share that love with them. So it's great to hear that. Um, how about this one? Best compliment that you've ever received?
Mm. Well, I thought about that, and there's a few. So many years ago, I asked my team to describe me in one word. And so they put a little piece of paper in a box, and the word that came up the most was empathetic.
Hmm.
And that meant a lot to me because when you're leading a group of people, to have empathy for them and compassion is really important. And so I thought, well, that's why we work so well together. I think, that's a big part of it. And then recently, a new director joined our company, and I reported to her, and she told me that I was a very talented instructional designer.
Hmm.
Um, and this is new for me. I completed a certification as an instructional designer last year, so it was really great feedback for me because I thought, okay, my modules are interesting. She likes them, and so I found that to be timely and really helpful for me.
Wow, that's great. Both good ones. Those are excellent ones to have. All right, I'm going to ask you the last question, then we'll wrap it up. If there's one thing that people should know about you, what is it?
Mm. That I care deeply
Mhm.
about how they spend their time and why they spend their time at work.
Mm.
And it's really because we spend well over 80,000 hours in our lifetime at our jobs. And so it's important for us to feel good, to feel like we're contributing to something that's greater than ourselves.
Mhm.
And so I care about how people feel about their work. And that dictates a lot of the work that I do.
Wow, excellent. Thank you so much, Christine. Thanks for sharing all that with it. What a thoughtful conversation. It says a lot about Thought Exchange that you're there. I'm really interested in them as an organization now, and I'm look forward to learning more about them. And thanks for spending this time with us today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah.
I don't do interviews very often, so I was a little bit nervous about this, but I'm glad. It's been a wonderful conversation. And yes, if anyone is interested in Thought Exchange, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll be happy to chat.
Yeah. And make sure you click on that LinkedIn profile, connect with Christine, and yeah, you just that she would be a wonderful addition to your network. And I just want to remind everybody we have the accessibility and inclusion design inclusive design conference coming up on July 10th. So don't miss that one. It's a free event that we're going to be running. It's great. We have over 100 people are already registered for it, and the program is almost complete. So if accessibility is important to you at all in the stuff that you do, definitely sign up for that one. We have an incredible group of speakers. AIDC21.com is where you can go to that. And with that, we'll see everybody next week. Thanks again, Christine.
Thank you.
All
Thank you.
right. Bye, everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.